Let's also talk, though, the interesting story out of Melbourne was police drones watching for grand final parties. I guess we know the importance of, not spreading COVID. Does this feel like, are you comfortable with this?
Look, obviously it is important to make sure that none of the parts of life that we engage in and enjoy do anything to flare the disease up again, so I understand it. Obviously, we all feel sad. I mean, I've been spending quite a lot of time on the phone to people in Geelong this week, and there are no official gatherings on the weekend. The club hasn't organised anything because it's impossible to do that. That feels sad. I know that everyone is just as excited, and there's a lot of streamers and decorations that have been put in people's windows. So I think the way I feel is that it's a week where we've got to make our own excitement. It is a bit different. But I think the way to think about it is, this is a really unique year. The ratings on football have been through the roof. That makes sense to me. I don't think I've ever needed footy more this year than I have, because, we've been obviously in our houses a lot. You want some form of live sport. Yeah. And I look back, some of our great figures in sports history, Farlap, Bradman, are people who did their achievements during really difficult times, during the Depression. And so there's been this kind of suggestion that maybe 2020 has an asterisk next to it. I think it does, but because it's more important, not less.
Yeah, look, it's going to be well-deserved, of course. The Cats have been out of their comfort zone, and it's a sort of whole-of-town team, isn't it? So it will be a big boost if they can get up. It's taken me a few days, but I can say go Cats now.
Well done, Tom.
What about Victorians are hoping for a positive announcement on Sunday? We've got this cluster maybe threatening that. We find out yesterday the family at the centre of it was confused. Each family member had a different case manager. I mean, this just feels like Victorians are being let down still by the teams in charge of this pandemic. This many months in, such a bizarre approach, which they've admitted was the wrong one. Well,
the details of these things matter, and obviously it's really important that all of that is gotten right going forward. But I'd make the observation that whilst there were mistakes made early on, and no one's shying away from that, I mean, the state government initiated a judicial inquiry almost immediately, and they've been fully cooperating.
But this isn't early on. This is
no, I get it, but
still happening.
Sure, but since then, if you look at how this has been managed in Victoria, it's actually a globally remarkable story. Like it is in terms of how much the outbreak, how far it went, and from there being
with a very harsh lockdown that people obeyed. But
sure, and so the credit absolutely lies with the Victorian people. But I make this point. Back at the end of July, there was 700 plus cases in Victoria. On the same day, there was just over 800 cases in Great Britain. Today, we're down to a handful. I think there might be one case today, but it's certainly only a handful. In Britain, it's more than 15,000. It is a dramatic difference. There has been very significant measures put in place, but they have worked, and Victoria is getting out of this.
The question is, though, about, I guess, confidence in authority. So the other aspect is Brett Sutton. He decided not to give hotel quarantine inquiry a crucial email showing he was told about private security being used months before he said he was, on the basis he apparently didn't read the email properly.
Yeah, OK. Again, we can get into the weeds of this, but...
but this goes... Well, I guess I'm not saying weeds. Do you really think it's weeds when it's something that goes to a crucial element of this whole response? And again, it's about Victorians having confidence in the people running this thing.
Well, I think the crucial element of what saw the initial outbreak and how it was managed is ultimately going to be determined by the findings of the judicial inquiry, and we should let it run its course. When I say weeds, it's not to say that these details aren't important. They're deeply important. But what I really mean is that as we look at it from our position now, what matters is that the judicial inquiry is happening, and that those who are engaging with it are fully cooperating. And Brett Sutton is, as is the Premier.
Well,
as
was he when he said?
Well,
when he told his department not to hand over these emails that contradicted his evidence, is that fully cooperating?
All of that material is now before...
Now it is, but it wasn't before.
All of that material is before the judicial inquiry.
But that's only because of a leak. Otherwise it wouldn't have been.
all of these officials are cooperating with the inquiry. No one is being, given a free pass here. The Premier himself has given evidence before the inquiry, 3 senior ministers. It's obviously a very difficult process. One of those ministers is now gone. It's going to land where it lands.
All right.
The government deserves deserves credit for the courage of setting it up in the first place. But I think from where we sit, what's important is to let this process run out,
okay.
and we'll look at the findings when the inquiry hands down its report.
Just finally and briefly, Christine Holgate standing down. Has the government acted the right way since these revelations came to light?
Well, it's important that the Prime Minister did what he did. It would have been extraordinary if he'd done anything less, but let's also be clear, this is a board which is packed full of Liberal Party mates. I think the other point to make here, though...
So what, the whole board should go?
Well, I think that let's see how this plays out. It is very important, though, that the board is held to account.
Do you have confidence in the board at the moment?
Well, I think given that this decision went through the board, there's a real question mark there, and we want to see that the government acts appropriately in relation to the board. But the policy point to be made here, Tom, is this. It's not just Australia Post. It's the land deal around Badgerys Creek. It's the Sports Rorts program. All of it points to the need for an independent commission against corruption at a federal level, and this government has been sitting on its hands.